Hello, I wanted to talk to you just for a few minutes about titles. Now, one thing's become really obvious to me doing pop-up submissions for, I don't know, it's been a year, maybe 18 months, I think, since we first started. And the quality has been really very high. So if you have sent us a pop-up submission since we started going, then, you should pat yourself on the back knowing that you're well in the top 50% of all submissions that publishers see. The quality has been uniformly good. The thing that hasn't been good, and if I'm honest, is rarely good with any form of submission, is the title. Now, it's quite clear that writers don't pay very much attention to the title of the work that they submit. Sometimes they get a good idea and it goes on the front. But more often than not, I think it's left till the last thing to do before, you tidy your manuscript up and maybe do a last pass, and then you bung a title on. And what seems to happen is that the title is very often, in fact, I'd say 75% of the cases that we've seen on pop-up submissions is simply a sort of a description or a summary of the work itself. Now, that's a huge wasted opportunity. And in fact, looking back or thinking back over the submissions we've seen over the past 6 months or so, I can't think of many whose titles really stand out. Now, I can't overstress the importance of going in with a really strong, distinctive title. Why? Well, because from my point of view, and the publisher's point of view, it just sets the tone. If you go in with a title that does its job, what is its job? We'll cover that in a moment. If you go in with a title that really does its job, then you're sending a message to the agent and to the publisher. And you're saying, and sometimes in just 2 or 3 words, you're saying, I know what I'm doing. And bear in mind that 99% of submissions don't have good titles. So already from the first page, just 2 or 3 words, you're standing out. The other thing you're doing, as far as the submission process is concerned, is that you're raising your expectations. And remember, agents particularly, not so much publishers, they tend to be a bit more cynical, but agents are very positive, optimistic people. And if you raise our expectations, we want our expectations to be raised. We desperately want to discover the next big thing. And so if you go in with a nice, confident, creative, memorable title, you're fulfilling our expectations. You're also giving us something to work with for publishers too. When we then send it out to publisher, we can send it out with that extra added degree of confidence too. So how do you go about, what is the job of a title? It's not to describe the book. There's no point doing that. You've got the back jacket copy and so on. It's quite simple. It's to get the reader's attention and to raise our expectations, to make us feel good about it. How do you get the reader's attention? There are all kinds of different ways. It might be interesting for you, either in the chat room at the moment or in the thread in which this video will be, to discuss a few memorable titles that you've come across and why you think they're memorable, why they stand out. I've got a few here, in no particular order. I'd like to I've just pulled these, literally just pull these off the bookshelf. First one, it was a hit some years ago now, Thick Face, Black Heart. Yeah, a strange book, really. It's all about sort of, I guess, the Chinese way of doing business, really. But it's such an interesting title. What is a thick face? What is a black heart? How do they go together? It raises your expectations and interest, doesn't it? I think that's quite memorable. Even though I don't remember the book too much, but I do remember the title. Here's another terrific one, a children's book. This may be familiar to you. The author died quite recently. When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. What an extraordinary title. There's a little bit... Very often authors use something called cognitive dissonance, which I shan't try and define here, but you can do in the thread in the chat room. There's a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on here. When Hitler everything that's evil in the 20th century. An icon of evil. Pink Rabbit. What a contrast there. That's got to arouse your interest, hasn't it? Has for me. And it's a really, if you haven't read it, it's a lovely book. It's ideal for reading out loud to children. Yes, it obviously does cover the Nazi period in Germany, but it does in a way that children find very accessible. And there are, obviously it doesn't pull punches, but there are no horrors in it either. So it's very, very readable. I think that's a terrific title. Now here's another one. This is a book I've only just read, actually. I don't know if you can see it. It's The Strange Death of Liberal England. Now this came out in the 1930s. And since then, the author, George Dangerfield, coined something of a meme back in the 1930s, because if you type that into Amazon or into just Google or something, searching newspapers, you will find no end of books or magazine pieces or articles whose title begin with "The Strange Death of," fill in the missing blank. And this was the first book to use that odd, slightly cog-dis title, "The Strange Death of Liberal England." Now, what does that do when you're first exposed to that title? Well, you think Liberal England, has it died? Okay, the author says it's died, and it was a strange death. Why was it a strange death? So, are you interested? I would say, yeah. I think that's. It's almost an iconic title now. Unfortunately, the book itself doesn't get read a huge amount, and it should be actually. It's a really good read. It's a history of England, but the sort of bits of English history you don't know much about. The extraordinary lead up to the First World War, the very brief blooming of the Edwardian period in England before it was sort of cut off with the stalk. And there's a huge amount there about Ireland as well. And then, of course, the lead up to the Second World War. And some people would say that the Second World War was merely an extension of the First. So I do recommend that as a book in any case. But as a meme of a title, if you're lucky enough to coin a meme, how fabulous is that? How can you do that? How can you coin memes? How can you come up with strong titles? I'm not saying it's easy. It can take weeks. In my experience, titles either come first or last. In other words, you might wake up 3 o'clock in the morning with this extraordinary expression in your head. Write it down. Always keep a notebook by your bed. Always keep a notebook, because if you don't, I guarantee it'll be gone the next day. You may have a slight recollection that didn't I come up with something good last night? Yeah, but it's gone. So you must do that. And if you're in a slightly groggy state, then you've got to wake yourself up. You've got to turn that torch on, write the title down, and then you can go back to sleep again, knowing your job's been done. Titles come first or last. They can come like that. They can come just out of the blue if you're receptive to them. If they don't, and you've got most of the book written, but under a working title, the best advice I can give is do not send it out. This is what so many people do. They send the thing out, and they say, the agent can help with the title, or the publisher can help with the title sometimes, And that's a huge mistake, because it's not really agents' jobs to do that, and it certainly isn't publishers' jobs. You're then starting to blur the boundary between what a writer does, which is highly creative work, and what a publisher does. Totally different skill set. Don't blur those boundaries. I can't just stress that enough. You've got to demonstrate that you're really good at doing what you do, and that will just cause a very, very positive sort of self-fulfilling virtuous circle. If you don't do that with the title, then you are going into battle with at least one hand tied behind your back, if not both legs amputated as well. So, if you don't have a strong title, but you've got most of the manuscript done or enough done to send it out, wait until you've got a good title. You've got to wait. Work on it. It can take weeks. Writing 2, 3, 4, 5 words can take weeks. And I know how, frustrating that is, but at least you've got Litopia to bounce ideas around in. And that's useful. Very strong advice, that. So, a few more here. This is one of my clients' books of a few years ago. It's a very interesting biography of Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese freedom fighter, who Later, of course, rather disappointed people. I think she won the Nobel Peace Prize, but then things started to go rather wrong. And to the author's credit, Perfect Hostage it's called, to the author's credit, he kind of foreshadowed some of that. It was a very interesting biography, warts and all. Perfect Hostage goes very well with the design there. But what is a perfect hostage? Doesn't make sense. Again, a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on there. Yeah? A few more. This is by John Ronson. You might have read some of his books. The Psychopath Test. Yeah, very simple. What is the Psychopath Test? It's inside there. He also did his previous one, which I don't think we've got here, was an even stronger title, The Men Who Stare at Goats. And that was turned into a film. I hadn't seen it. George Clooney, I think, filmed it. But what a great title. The Men Who Stare at Goats. Again, what's it doing? It's arousing your interest and your expectations. And it's a little bit funny. So you think, yeah, it's probably going to be an amusing read. And he is indeed a funny writer. But it's also got that question mark, who are the men who stare at goats and why do they do that? So I think those are two good titles from John Ronson. This is a very simple book about something called Psychosynthesis, nonfiction. What We May Be. Really simple title there. Really simple. And I mean, it says everything, really. I mean, it's absolutely on the nose. Some people will like it, other people won't. But again, what you've got to think, what emotional effect is it going to have? It's asking a question, really, isn't it? What is it that we may be? Answer contained herein. What we may be. Very simple title, but strong. Very strong. So, if you're really in trouble and you've spent 2 or 3 weeks knocking titles around, hopefully in Litopia, exchanging ideas and things, and you still can't get to first base, what do you do then? Do you still send it out? No, you don't. What you do is you go to the classics, basically, of English literature. You go to the Bible, especially the Old Testament. Some of the early books in the Old Testament particularly, and also Revelations is very good too, actually. Strong eschatological language, extraordinary. Amazing how many books take direct quotes or paraphrases from the Old Testament. Psalms is a very good bit of the Bible to go to as well. Shakespeare. Lost track of the number of books whose titles are, again, possibly paraphrases, because not everything quoted, attributed to Shakespeare is actually word for word exactly what's written. Shakespeare's very good inspiration. You can probably think of other really, I'm looking for a word more than classic, actually. We're getting into archetypal territory, actually. So just start reading. Something will start to suggest itself to you as you dig in deeper. You go in at random, and then you'll find that thoughts will start to emerge. This is a book by a young man that had some influence on me. Again, it's just like the previous one, actually, What We May Be, Why You Don't Need Meat. A book that answered a really simple but pressing question in the minds of millions of people when it first came out. It's been published and republished for decades since then. I would like to take credit for the title. It wasn't actually my title. The title was suggested to me by a publisher. And he said, write a book about this and call it very, very simple. Don't overwork it, because the right idea at the right time will sell. Why You Don't Need Meat. And that was the right idea at the right time. Sold 100,000 copies within the first few weeks. Another one by another one of my clients. This is a political biography. Political biographies are usually really dull as ditch water. This one wasn't. This is by an American senator called Orrin Hatch. Very simple title, Square Peg. Square Peg. So, yeah, it is a political biography, but it just those two words say quite a lot. It's not going to be a hagiography, and so many politicians, of course, have vastly inflated egos, and they just going to write books about how similar they are to Churchill and God knows what else. But this is kind of, it's taking the author down a peg, if you don't mind the pun. Square peg. And Does it arouse people's interests? Yeah, I think it will do. I mean, obviously, it's only of interest to people of a certain political persuasion, but it sends a message as well. It's an unusual title for a political biography. It's not self-important, and indeed, the author and the subject of the autobiography was far from a self-important person. One of the most dirt poor, raised himself literally by the efforts of his own intelligence. Really, I mean, he was. As I remember, he started his working life at 17 or 16, doing aluminium sidings on buildings and working 14, 18 hours a day, and put himself through night school to become a lawyer. Became a very good defense lawyer. Eventually became governor, I think, of the state of Utah, and from there he went on to Congress. So a good title for a biography there. And last of all, another cognitive dissonance book, very recent book. I think it's been a #1 bestseller in the UK. The Colour of Time, a big, thick book, lots of colour illustrations in it. What it is really is lots of pictures with history, but they're all recoloured in a way that brings them alive. Very simple, but non-fiction. But the colour of time. You think to yourself, time doesn't have a colour, does it? Why the colour of time? So again, you can see a bit of cognitive dissonance going on. So those are just books I've pulled out at random because they seem to have really strong titles. Can't emphasise enough how important it is to develop titles. You now might like to discuss in the thread or the chat room titles that are really stuck in your mind, whether or not you like the book, actually. Hopefully you do like the book, but, once the title has got you into that book, into the purchase decision, it's done its job, basically. So thank you for watching. As you know, Pop-Up Submissions is going from strength to strength. We are nothing if not a collaborative operation here. We have our fantastic team of readers, our narrators. We have other people working behind the scenes as well to book guests. And we've also got wonderful people in the chat room who contribute so much all the time. So if you want to join in somehow, possibly be on our panel, because we'll be expanding the panel of people that we use, let me know. There is the distinct possibility that quite soon Pop-Up Submissions may be going twice weekly. That's successful. So obviously we will need more help in every aspect, and I couldn't do it without you. So please do consider participating. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to being with you again at the usual time, 5 o'clock UK, next Sunday for a regular Pop-Up Submission show. See you soon.